Hello everyone, it's so good to be here again. I just got back from the cinema, much later than initially expected. Of course, the Montreal Metro just had to go down for an indefinite period of time, so I had to take the long scenic route, which in hindsight is kind of appropriate seeing the kind of film I went to see. So I went to see Io Capitano, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Going to this film, I literally had zero idea what the film was about, other than the fact that it is nominated for an Oscar in Best International Film category. And post seeing the film, surprised to learn that this is a film that was entered from Italy. But I guess that makes sense in a way, since the film director Matteo Garrone is an Italian himself, and indeed the end point of this journey is in Italy, Sicily. I won't go into too much details, as always, to avoid spoilers, but in essence, this is a story of two young teenagers who live in Senegal. They have their family, their life over there, and though they live in abject poverty, they make do nonetheless. But indeed, they dream of a better future, not only for themselves, but for their family, which is frankly quite a noble aspiration. But yeah, it's no simple task to leave where they are and journey all the way to Europe, though that is the journey that they embark on. And of course, we can draw parallels to classic works as The Odyssey, which of course is a reference that comes to mind after having seen the film and reflecting on it a bit. And I will say the tone of the first act is actually quite hopeful, quite jovial, and there's this sense of hope and ambition that both teenagers have. And though we can imagine the kind of trials and tribulations they will have in the very near future, the film does start to foreshadow it as we get closer and closer to the second act. Even so, nothing really prepares you for the harrowing, truly harrowing, horrifying events that transpire. This was no easy journey, and my god, have they marched through hell itself. I do think it's worth bringing up that this is a fictionalized story as far as I can tell, though it is inspired by real-life journeys of countless migrants trying to leave Africa to Europe. So all that to say that this is a very touching and moving and, once again, harrowing film-going experience. I think the true power of the film lies in the performances from both Seydou Sarr and Moustapha Fall as Seydou and Moussa, which I am amused that they kept their own real names in the film. But indeed, they give very powerful, and they give this warmth of humanity in this really chaotic and desolate world. There really is this feeling of this brotherhood that is formed, not only between themselves, but with other people. For me, this film is a reminder that there are forces of good, and these guardian angels and good Samaritans, people who truly are there to help each other out. Even in the face of evil, there's this goodness at the core of the film that never gets wiped out, which is frankly invigorating. Now, all that being said, I truly did love the first and second act. I was completely immersed and enthralled in the experience, once again for both the beauty and the harrowing evil of its nature. But I do find that the film starts to falter in the third act. I won't go into specific details, but there are some events that I feel start to drag out, and some of the distressing, dramatic events that happen in that final act are complex situations, but they did leave me briefly scratching my head for logic. But I do think the biggest issue, perhaps, that not only myself, but many people could have with the film is the film kind of just abruptly ends, and it kind of leaves a few narrative threads hanging loose, and doesn't actually explore probably one of the more bigger questions, not only of the film, but kind of in the world in general, which is this massive complex question of, well, what do we do with all these migrants that come into our country uninvited, basically? Now, I won't delve too deep into that topic because, frankly, I am politically unequipped to tackle that kind of subject. I'll leave that for more talented and informed individuals, but I will say that it kind of does feel like a cop-out in a sense, because it's such an important question that just kind of gets thrown out the window at the last second of the film, which, to be fair, I do think this is probably the safe choice for the film to take, because it would open up this Pandora's box that I don't know that it would be able to close in a neat fashion this late into the film. I feel like that would be a whole entire film in and of itself, actually, but I do think it's worth bringing up as food for thought. But truly, I thought the rest of the film was splendid, and even in that last act, though I do find that, once again, it kind of falters in its footsteps and it isn't quite as consistent of a film-going experience as the rest of the film, I still totally recommend it. It is quite moving and, once again, touching. I think this is easily at least a 7, and I'm probably willing to bump it up to an 8 out of 10, once again, because of the wonderful performances, especially from the two lead actors. Though there are plenty of other minor highlights scattered throughout the film. That is probably the part that resonates the most with me overall, I guess. This goodness of humanity that is there to help people in need. So yeah, check it out for yourselves, make your own opinion. But I definitely do see why it gets an Oscar nomination for international film. It is quite poignant. So with all that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon.